Victor Hale once ruled the markets of Earth. He was not just a businessman, he was a dreamer, a man who believed money could build bridges to the stars. For 20 years, he had invested his wealth in ships, research labs, and strange machines no one else understood. His dream was simple, but impossible to many. He wanted humans to stand equal among the great alien civilizations that watched Earth from far away. But the truth was bitter. Every time Victor reached out, every time he sent signals and messages to the stars, the answer was the same: rejection. The galactic councils, those mighty alien unions that humans only heard about in rumors, had already judged Earth. They believed humans were unstable, too violent, too greedy, too young. And so, whenever Victor tried to prove Earth's worth, his requests were laughed at, ignored, or directly refused. He spent billions. He lost friends. And slowly, he lost his reputation. At first, people admired him. They called him the man who will open the stars. But when rejection came again and again, that respect turned to mockery. News channels called him desperate. Former partners abandoned him. Even governments stopped answering his calls. To them, Victor Hale was no longer a pioneer, he was a fool chasing a dream that could never be real. Now, he sat in his lonely glass tower, once the heart of his empire. The city below still glowed with life, but his office was dark. The screens around him showed reports of another failure. His latest transmission, sent with advanced quantum tech, had been blocked by the council in less than a second. The rejection letter was short and cold. Humanity is not ready. Do not attempt again. Victor read those words over and over. Each time, they cut deeper. He poured himself a glass of expensive wine, but even that tasted bitter now. For years, he had told himself he was fighting for humanity. But deep inside, he had also fought for something else, for his pride, for his name, for the hope that history would remember him as the man who took humanity into the stars. Now, even that hope felt empty. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of the city outside. He stood by the wide window, staring into the night sky. Thousands of stars shone above, each one a possible home, each one a reminder of his failure. He whispered, almost to himself, "What more do you want from me? I gave everything." And in that moment, he truly believed his fight was over. He thought of the board meetings where investors laughed at him. He thought of his once loyal scientists, who had left his projects when funding dried up. He thought of the cruel nickname people now used, the desperate dreamer. Victor Hale had been rich, powerful, admired. Now, he was just a broken man with empty hands and a heart heavy with shame. He sank into his chair and closed his eyes. He considered selling everything left, retreating from the world, and living his last years in silence. After all, why fight when the universe itself had said no? But then, a sound broke the silence. The heavy doors of his office opened with a slow creak. Victor frowned. He had told his staff not to disturb him. In fact, most of his staff had already left him, chasing safer jobs. So who could it be? A figure stepped inside. Not a businessman in a sharp suit, not a scientist with polished reports, no, it was a young woman. She wore simple clothes, worn from travel. Her hands were calloused, as if she worked with tools and stone, not machines. Her boots were covered in dust. Victor stared at her, confused. "Who are you? How did you get past security?" The woman did not flinch. She looked him in the eye and said, "My name is Lyra. I am the daughter of a miner." Victor almost laughed. A miner's daughter? What business could she have here, in the office of a man who once commanded billions? But there was something strange in her gaze. It was steady, strong, carrying a fire he had not seen in years. She walked forward, and from a small pouch at her side, she pulled out something that glowed faintly in the dark room. It was a crystal, unlike any Victor had seen before. Its surface shifted with colors, alive with a soft pulse. Lyra placed it on his desk. The crystal hummed faintly, as if it was breathing. Victor leaned forward, unable to look away. "What is this?" Lyra's voice was calm but firm. "This is a message. Not from humans, not from any council you know. My father found it deep inside the mines before he died. He said it does not belong to us, but it may be the only key to make the universe finally listen." Victor's heart pounded. For years, he had begged for a chance. And now, when he had given up, a stranger, a miner's daughter, stood before him with something that might change everything. For the first time in many years, Victor Hale felt a spark inside him. Not hope, not yet. But curiosity. The fall of the millionaire might not be the end. It could be the beginning of something far greater. And as the crystal glowed brighter, he realized one truth: sometimes, the future does not come from the towers of the rich, but from the hands of the forgotten. Victor Hale sat frozen in his chair, the strange crystal glowing on his desk. Its light was soft, but it filled the dark room like a living flame. He had seen countless machines, metals, and alien relics in his life, but this was different. The colors shifted, flowing like water. The glow almost seemed to follow his heartbeat. He looked at Lyra again. She stood calmly, though her clothes were simple and dusty. Her eyes carried the weight of someone who had lived a hard life underground, in the endless tunnels of the mining colonies. "Explain," Victor said, his voice low, almost trembling. "What exactly is this?" Lyra pulled out a chair and sat across from him. For a moment, she didn't speak. Instead, she placed her hand gently over the crystal. At once, the glow pulsed brighter, as if responding to her touch. "My father found it," she began. "Deep in the old mining shafts, far below where any human has ever gone. He said it wasn't stone, and it wasn't metal. It was alive. He kept it hidden for years, afraid that the company would take it away. Before he died, he told me it was not meant to stay buried. He said this crystal has the power to speak where words fail." Victor frowned. "Speak? With whom?" Lyra's eyes locked with his. "With those who keep rejecting you. With the ones who watch us from the stars." Victor leaned back, his mind racing. It sounded impossible. And yet, the glow in front of him made his doubts weaker. For years, he had tried to communicate with the alien councils using technology, logic, and money. None of it had worked. But here, in front of him, was something different, something that felt alive. How can a miner's daughter know what even the greatest scientists on Earth cannot? Victor asked, almost harshly. Lyra did not flinch. "Because my father believed. And because I've seen it work." Victor's eyes narrowed. "You've seen it?" Lyra nodded slowly. "The night before he died, my father held the crystal close. He was weak, struggling to breathe. But when he touched it, the room filled with light. And I heard voices. Not words exactly. Feelings. Memories. Pain. Hope. It was as if the crystal carried the emotions of countless beings, and it shared them with us. My father told me, This is what the stars cannot ignore. The truth of the heart. Victor's chest tightened. He had always been rejected because the aliens believed humans were unworthy, too selfish. But what if there was a way to show them something beyond money, beyond technology, something deeper? Still, his mind was sharp, and he refused to be fooled so easily. If this is true, then why come to me? Why not to the governments? Why not to the scientists? For the first time, Lyra's voice shook slightly. Because they would not listen. To them, I am nothing, a miner's child with a shiny rock. They would lock it away in a lab, tear it apart, and miss the truth. But you have already been rejected. You know the pain. You know what it means to fight for humanity when no one else will. That's why I came. Victor was silent. Her words hit him harder than he expected. Yes, he had been rejected, mocked, abandoned. And yet, hearing her say it made him realize something. His pain was not just his own. Humanity as a whole was rejected, left behind in the shadows of the stars. He reached out, his fingers brushing against the crystal. Instantly, warmth spread through him, a pulse that was not his own. For a brief moment, he felt something strange, a memory, maybe not his. He saw endless tunnels of stone, a father's tired hands, a girl watching him with love and fear. And then it was gone, like a dream slipping away. Victor pulled his hand back, breathing heavily. What was that? Lyra looked at him softly. That was the truth. The crystal doesn't send words. It sends feelings, memories, the raw spirit of life. And that is what the councils fear. Because logic can be argued, but the heart cannot be denied. Victor stared at the glowing shard. For years, he had tried to impress aliens with power, with machines, with money. But this was something no machine could build. This was humanity itself, in its purest form. Yet doubt still lingered. What if it's dangerous? What if they see this as an attack? Lyra's face was steady. Then they will destroy us. But if we do nothing, they will still keep us out forever. Isn't it better to risk everything for one true chance? Her words cut like a blade. Victor realized she was right. He had already lost his wealth, his pride, his place in the world. He had nothing left to lose except the final fight for humanity's future. The crystal pulsed again, brighter this time, casting their faces in strange light. Victor whispered, almost to himself, maybe, this is the key. Lyra nodded. It is. But we must take it to them directly. Not through signals. Not through machines. We must stand before the council itself. Victor's heart pounded. The council? No human had ever walked into that place and lived. It was madness. And yet, as he looked into Lyra's determined eyes, he felt something he had not felt in years: hope. The miner's daughter had brought him a secret. But more than that, she had brought him back his reason to fight. And so, the desperate dreamer began to dream once more. The journey to the stars was nothing like Victor Hale had imagined. He had once dreamed of flying in golden ships, surrounded by honor and respect. But now, when he left Earth with Lyra, there was no glory. They traveled in a silent, stolen freighter, its engines patched with old parts, its walls shaking with every jump through space. For days, Victor could not sleep. He sat near the crystal, watching its slow, steady glow. Each pulse was like a heartbeat, a reminder of the risk they carried. Are you sure about this? He asked Lyra more than once. If the council discovers us, They won't just turn us away. They might erase us. Lyra's answer was always the same. Then let them. But at least we'll know we tried. Her calmness unsettled him. She was just a miner's daughter, yet she carried herself like someone chosen by fate. Victor, with all his wealth and failures, felt smaller beside her. Finally, after endless jumps, the stars shifted, and their ship dropped out of warp before a colossal sight. The Council Station. Victor's breath caught. It was no simple space station. It was a city among the stars, carved into the bones of an ancient asteroid. Towers of silver and black rose into the void, linked by glowing bridges of energy. Entire fleets of alien ships circled it like watchful birds. And at its heart, a great spire glowed with power, sending signals across the galaxy. The Council. The place where the fate of entire species was decided. Victor's voice shook. We shouldn't be here. One scan, and they'll destroy us. But Lyra placed a hand on the crystal. No. We're not here to hide. We're here to be heard. The ship trembled as it approached. Almost instantly, a voice filled their cockpit, a deep, cold voice, neither male nor female. Unregistered vessel. You are trespassing on restricted grounds. Identify or be destroyed. Victor's throat went dry. His hands froze on the controls. But before he could answer, the crystal pulsed, and the voice fell silent. A long pause followed. Then the same voice spoke again, sharper, almost unsettled. Your vessel carries something unusual. You are ordered to dock for investigation. Victor and Lyra exchanged glances. This was it. They were being pulled into the lion's den. The ship locked into a docking bay. As the doors opened, Victor's stomach twisted. Dozens of alien guards waited, tall, armored beings with weapons glowing in their hands. Their eyes narrowed, their voices harsh. One stepped forward. Humans. You should not be here. Victor's old instinct was to beg, to explain, to show respect. But Lyra walked ahead, her head high. She held the crystal in her hands, its glow spilling across the cold metal floor. I am Lyra, she said firmly. Daughter of a miner. I carry this, and I demand to present it before the council. The guards stiffened. For a moment, Victor feared they would strike her down. But the crystal pulsed again, and the air shifted. Even the guards seemed to hesitate, as if something unseen touched their minds. Without another word, they led Victor and Lyra through the vast halls of the station. Victor had seen alien images before, but nothing prepared him for the council chamber. It was a cathedral of stars, with seats rising in endless circles. Hundreds of alien species filled the room, scaled, feathered, armored, and some beings so strange their forms blurred like shadows. Above them all, on a raised platform, sat the council elders, glowing with power. When Victor and Lyra stepped into the center, silence fell. A voice thundered, echoing through the chamber. Humans. You were warned. You were told never to intrude. Why have you come? Victor's mouth went dry. He wanted to speak, but no words came. For years, he had dreamed of this moment, yet now, standing here, he felt small, powerless. Then Lyra stepped forward, holding up the crystal. Its glow spread across the chamber, touching every corner. We came because you keep rejecting us. You judge humanity as greedy, violent, unworthy. But this crystal carries something you cannot ignore. The truth of who we are. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some aliens laughed, their voices cruel. One elder hissed, "This is manipulation. You bring us tricks, not truth." Another shouted, "Remove them. Humanity must not be allowed to rise." Victor's heart pounded. Guards moved closer. This was the end. They would be dragged away, maybe killed. All his failures would end here, in shame. But then, the crystal pulsed harder, brighter than before. The light surged through the chamber, and suddenly silence. Victor gasped as feelings washed over him. Not words, not images, feelings. Memories of laughter, of children running through fields, of parents sacrificing everything for their families. Love, pain, courage, despair, and hope, all flooding the chamber at once. Aliens gasped, some clutching their chests, others trembling. For the first time, they felt humanity not as numbers or reports, but as raw emotion. Victor fell to his knees, overwhelmed. Lyra held the crystal high, her face glowing in its light. "This is humanity," she said, her voice echoing strong. "Not perfect. Not pure. But real. This is what you have rejected again and again. And this is what you can no longer deny." The chamber was silent, but the silence was heavy, full of shock, fear, and something else. Hope. But as Victor raised his eyes, he saw the council was divided. Some elders looked shaken, almost moved. But others glared with rage. And one, with eyes burning cold, hissed, "If this is true, then humanity may be far more dangerous than we ever believed." The council chamber was no longer silent. Voices rose like storms, clashing in every corner. Some alien delegates shouted in anger, others whispered in awe, and many simply stared at the glowing crystal in Lyra's hands. Victor struggled to stand. His legs shook, his heart pounded, and his mind reeled from the wave of emotions the crystal had unleashed. He had felt joy, sorrow, and sacrifice, not just from humans but from countless lives, as if the crystal carried echoes of every being who had ever touched it. One elder, tall and cloaked in silver, leaned forward. His voice was sharp, filled with suspicion. "This is dangerous. You bring a weapon of emotion. You twist our thoughts. This cannot be allowed." Another elder, her skin like liquid gold, spoke softly, almost trembling. "No, this is not a weapon. This is truth. For the first time, I felt their pain, and their hope. The humans, they are not what we believed." The chamber broke into arguments. Some called for immediate destruction of Victor and Lyra. Others demanded the crystal be studied. And a few, very few, asked a question no one had dared before: what if humanity deserves a place among us? Victor's throat was dry. For years, he had begged, bribed, and built machines to win their respect. And yet, it was not him who had turned the chamber upside down. It was Lyra, the miner's daughter, with her father's crystal. He whispered, almost to himself, "I was wrong. It was never about me." Lyra looked at him, her eyes steady. "It was always about humanity. You just forgot what that means." Before Victor could answer, a deep boom shook the chamber. The central spire above them blazed with light, and the council leader himself rose from his throne. The leader was a towering being of shadow and flame, his form shifting with power. When he spoke, the walls trembled. "Enough." The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to the leader. "This crystal shows power beyond measure. It forces truth into our minds. If humanity holds such a thing, then they are not weak. They are dangerous. Gasps filled the room. Victor's chest tightened. He wanted to argue, to plead, but his voice failed. Then Lyra stepped forward, lifting the crystal higher. Its glow spread like firelight, touching every alien face. "You call it dangerous because it makes you feel," she said. "But feelings are not weapons. They are the heart of life. For too long, you have judged us by fear, by our wars, our greed, our flaws. But we are more than that. We love. We dream. We sacrifice. We fall, and we rise again. That is humanity's power." Her words cut through the silence. The crystal pulsed in agreement, and the chamber filled again with waves of raw emotion. Aliens felt a mother's arms holding her child. A soldier's final breath as he shielded his comrades. A miner's hands bleeding from work, still pushing forward for his family. Even Victor felt tears sting his eyes. He had spent his life chasing recognition, but Lyra, she had shown the truth of humanity in a way no fortune ever could. For a long moment, no one moved. Then one elder, an ancient being with wings of crystal, lowered his head. "If this is true, then humanity is not weak. They are strong in ways we did not understand." But another elder hissed, slamming a clawed hand on the table. "Or perhaps this is why they are most dangerous. A species that feels so deeply will fight without end. They will burn the stars with their passion. We must not let them rise." The chamber erupted again. Supporters and opponents clashed with words sharper than blades. Guards shifted nervously, unsure whom to obey. Victor felt the ground shifting under him. The council was no longer united. The crystal had cracked their certainty, forcing them to see humanity not as numbers, but as living, breathing souls. And in that chaos, Victor finally understood, his dream of being the one to lead humanity into the stars had already died. But something far greater had been born. He looked at Lyra, standing tall, the crystal glowing in her hands. She wasn't rich, she wasn't famous, but she carried the truth better than anyone ever could. She was humanity's voice. He whispered, his voice breaking, You are the real leader." Lyra didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed fixed on the council, her voice steady as steel. "I am not a leader. I am only a daughter who listened to her father. But I will not let humanity be silenced again." The council leader's flames flared higher. "Then you will face judgment. If humanity is truly as you claim, then let this council decide their fate once and for all." The chamber shook with the sound of the gavel striking, echoing like thunder. Victor's heart pounded as guards surrounded them once more. He knew the next moments would decide everything. For the first time in history, humanity would not be ignored. The trial was no longer forbidden, it was happening, here and now. And the entire galaxy was watching. The council chamber burned with tension. Hundreds of alien eyes glared down, some filled with rage, others with awe, and a few with fear. At the center stood Victor and Lyra, surrounded by guards, the glowing crystal pulsing in her hands like a living heart. The council leader's voice thundered again. "Humanity stands accused of greed, violence, and chaos. But they also bring this, truth. Today, this chamber will decide. Do humans join the galaxy or are they cast into silence forever?" The air grew heavy. Victor's chest tightened. He had dreamed of this moment for half his life. He thought he would stand proudly, deliver speeches, and win respect with brilliance. Instead, he stood trembling, broken, while a miner's daughter carried the future of Earth in her hands. The first elder to speak was cloaked in silver, his voice sharp. They must be destroyed. This crystal proves their danger. A species that feels so strongly will fight without end. Their emotions will corrupt this galaxy. Another elder rose, golden light shimmering from her body. No. This crystal does not corrupt, it reveals. For the first time, I felt the humanity they speak of. I felt love. I felt sacrifice. We cannot deny that truth. The chamber roared with arguments. Some shouted, destroy them. Others cried, let them join. Victor's hands shook. He wanted to shout, to argue, but his voice was gone. He looked at Lyra. She stood tall, her shoulders firm, her eyes bright with determination. She raised the crystal high, and its glow spread across the chamber once more. This time, the pulse was stronger than ever. The feelings surged again, not just human ones, but echoes of every being the crystal had ever touched. The love of a mother from a distant star. The final breath of a warrior who saved his tribe. The laughter of children in worlds no human had ever seen. The chamber fell silent, overwhelmed. For the first time, they were not divided by species. They were united by feeling. Lyra's voice rang out, clear and steady. You fear us because you see our flaws. But you forget we rise from our flaws. We stumble, but we stand again. We fight, yes, but we fight to protect, to survive, to hope. If that makes us dangerous, then we are dangerous. But it also makes us worthy. Humanity does not ask for pity. We ask for a chance to walk beside you, not beneath you. Her words echoed, and the crystal pulsed in agreement. Victor felt tears sting his eyes. He had spent his life trying to buy respect. But respect could not be bought. It could only be earned through truth, and Lyra had shown that truth better than anyone. At last, the council leader rose again, flames flickering across his massive form. He lifted a hand, and the chamber grew silent. The council will vote. One by one, the elders raised their hands or their claws, wings, or glowing forms. Some voted for rejection, some for acceptance. The tension was unbearable. Victor's heart hammered in his chest. Lyra did not move. She only held the crystal, her eyes locked on the leader. Finally, the votes were tallied. The chamber's lights dimmed. A single line of energy crackled across the spire above. And then the leader spoke. By majority, humanity shall be given a place among us. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted in fury, others cheered in disbelief. But none of it mattered. The decision was made. Humanity was no longer alone. Victor dropped to his knees, his hands covering his face. Tears spilled freely. He had been rejected again and again, mocked and broken, but now, history had changed. And it was not because of him. It was because a miner's daughter had walked into his office with a secret crystal and the courage to speak. He looked at Lyra, her face calm but fierce, the crystal glowing gently in her hands. In her, he saw the truth of humanity, ordinary, humble, yet unbreakable. Thank you, he whispered. For reminding me what I forgot. She gave a small smile. It wasn't me. It was us. Humanity. The guards lowered their weapons. Delegates began to file out, still arguing, still unsure. But the decision was final. For the first time in history, humanity had a seat among the stars. As Victor and Lyra were led out of the chamber, he glanced back one last time. The spire of the council blazed brighter than before, its light spilling across the galaxy. A new dawn had begun. Rejected again and again, Victor had lost hope. But when a miner's daughter walked in, humanity rose with her.